But how about we get in some of the Hellraiser talk? Let's get into some of the Hellraiser behind the scenes and production notes and stuff from the movie before we get into the breakdown of it.
Hmm.
So apparently, this movie, it was made and directed by Clive Barker,
Hmm.
um, which is a farm. He was a famous writer,
Hmm.
like a book writer,
An author, yeah, a book
author.
writer.
Yes, a book writer man. Okay, we simplify it here on the Retro Blood. All right.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, he was a book
So
writer.
apparently, this story was adapted from his novel, The Hellbound Heart. Have you ever read The Hellbound Heart?
Yeah, I have. I was going to ask you if you'd read it.
I haven't read it, so tell me a little bit about this book and tell the audience too who hasn't read it before.
It's pretty. It's a short. Not. I think they call it a novella. It's a short kind of. It's longer than a short story, but not a full novel. It's very similar to the movie. Um, except I'm trying to think. It's been a long time since I've read it, but it tells a basic same story of Frank and the Cenobites, and it does explain a little bit more what Cenobites are, but it doesn't name any of them. Of course, I don't think the movie names any of them either at this point.
Mm.
But yeah, so it's very similar to the movie. Like he made um a pretty not authentic, but a pretty accurate version of his book into the movie. So yeah, it's good. I mean, it's if you like Clive Barker, it's good. Clive Barker is not for everybody, for sure, but it is good. Very gory,
Yeah,
more gory than the movie probably.
yeah, that's usually like is Clive Barker's type of work is more like the glory um, type of style, kind of like the fantasy gory kind of stuff he does.
Yeah, and like dealing with things like sadomasochism, like he seems to be really into that. He talks about it a lot, and pain and pleasure, and them being kind of the same thing. That's kind of like the themes of Hellbound Heart mostly. But it's good. It's basically a similar story. I mean, it talks about Frank and Rory and Julia and all those characters are in it. It takes place in England though, and I'm not sure where this movie takes place. It doesn't really say. Sometimes it seems like they're in England, and sometimes it seems like they're in the United States.
Yes. And don't forget, Clive Barker is making his return to Retro Blood because we did do one of his movies, Rawhead Rex.
Yeah, well, isn't Rawhead Rex the reason this movie that he directed this movie?
Yes.
Basically, because he directed it himself because he was tired of people making bastardized versions of his books. So he made Hellraiser, even though he didn't really know how to make a movie. Like he didn't know anything about directing really. He just knew what he wanted it to look like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he talks about that too, where he didn't really know like the different style cameras,
Yeah.
like the lenses and stuff like that. And he was just like, all right, you could have shown me some spaghetti. I thought that was cameras.
Right.
So he's just like, sometimes, I think it still look good though. Like everything, the shots look good, the effects look good. In the movie, we had the return of the slimy demons, which is always my favorite
Mm-hmm.
things in 80s horror movies. But let's see what we got on here. So it was filmed in late 1986. All right, Baker originally wanted the electric music group Coil to
Mm-hmm.
perform the music for the film, but it was insisted from his producers that the film be scored by Christopher Young. So some of
Yeah.
Coil's themes were reworked by Young into the final scene. Or final
Yeah,
score.
so that's interesting. I like Christopher Young's soundtracks. He writes really good soundtracks, and this is a really good soundtrack too. But I tried to find if anybody had released the Coil soundtrack, but I couldn't find it anywhere. But I bet that would have sounded really cool and probably fit the movie a lot better because they were like an industrial kind of band, and I think that might have fit the movie a little better than the orchestral score that we got. But it would have been really strange.
Yes. And like we were saying, Clive Barker, he didn't like how different companies and directors were doing his movies, so he decided to take this one onto his own. And he had some backing from Christopher Figg, and the producers or the company went through was New World Pictures,
Mm-hmm.
so which is very prominent when it comes to like horror movies at this time. So Hellraiser was filmed at the end of 1986 and was set to be made in 7 weeks, but extended over a 9 to 10 week period by New World. So they had a time frame of just 7 weeks, but we had to add on a couple little extra time, so to get the story all made. But I like this. Check out this working title and see if this rolls off the tongue, everybody. The film was originally made under the working title "The Sadomasochist from Beyond the Grave."
Sorry, I like that better, actually. I think that's amazing.
The Sadomasochist from Beyond the Grave.
But I don't even know how you would even put that on a poster. Like, how would you even format that? A graphic artist would hate you if you made him put that on a poster.
Yes. And Baker also wanted to call the film Hellbound, like a story. But then the producer, Christopher, said, about Hellraiser. And they're like, okay, we'll go with that one. And of course, there's the name. And it spanned a big following. And it spanned a big a bunch of different movies from there. So, let's see. So, we talked about him lacking some knowledge on the filmmaking stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently, Doug Bradley, he had some trouble hitting his marks during his take in makeup, as he could not see through his black contact lenses and was afraid of tripping over Pinhead's skirt. But, we talked about this, back in the day, 80s and stuff, they didn't really use, like, contact lenses that we do nowadays. Most of the time, it would just make you blind.
I was about to say, I don't think back then, with colored contacts, I don't think you could see through them at all. Because we talked about that in Evil Dead, right? They couldn't see at all.
Yes, and then there's a couple scenes which they had to rush a couple scenes. So a couple scenes where we're trying to get some little more character in it, they just had to like rush to make sure they were fitting like budget times. So, but censorship, that should be fun. So apparently Clive Baker had made some cuts of the film after MPAA gave it an X rating. Following scenes were cut for rated R version. 2.5 shots were excused from the first hammer murder, including a close-up of the hammer lodged in the victim's head. All this stuff we could probably just watch nowadays, because pretty much every version you watch are probably not going to be the cut versions. And then in the scene where Julia murders another man, the actor playing the victim felt that it made sense for him to do so naked. I don't remember that. Maybe they did cut that one out. The nude murder scene was shot, but unfortunately replaced with a semi-clothed version. So we were going to have one of these horny dudes be naked in there.
Yeah.
Closes up of Christy. Did I say their name right? I always forget her name. Was it?
Isn't it Kirsty?
Kirsty, that's what it was. Kirsty the clown. I don't know why I made
like from The Simpsons.
Yes. Close up of Kirsty sticking her hand into Frank's stomach, exposing his guts. So there's a couple, during this time we had to like trim a couple things down. They still do that nowadays as well too. It's also interesting too, the 1987 period, we have done a lot here on the Retro Blood. We did like Prince of Darkness, Nightmare, we did Dream Warriors. We did a bunch of stuff. So I was like this period of 1987. I think they have really well done horror movies that came out around this period of time. So, how about, is everybody ready? Is everybody ready for the full review of Hellraiser?
Oh, I hope so, because it's coming.